Women have been giving birth for centuries, so it's a pretty natural experience, right? Wrong. I'm Stephanie King, professional doula, childbirth educator, and the creator of the My Essential Birth course, the online childbirth education course that's helping women everywhere confidently achieve their best birth. Today's culture would have us think that birth should be treated like an illness or an emergency, and that most of us need other people telling us what's best for our bodies because we aren't the experts. So sit tight, because if you're tuning into this podcast, you'll probably start to believe in your body, your intuition, and find yourself empowered and confident to do what it takes to have the birth of your dreams. If you like listening to me take you through these weekly topics step by step, then you're going to love the My Essential Birth course. Make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast, and definitely head over to myessentialbirth.com for the free downloads mentioned right here in these episodes, and to join the birth course and community full of pregnant moms just like you. I have to add a disclaimer that I am not a medical professional and I cannot provide medical advice. All of the information expressed in this podcast are based off of personal, professional, and educational experiences and are my own opinions. Please work with a provider you trust for medical advice during your pregnancy and birth. I can't wait for you guys to dive into this week's episode, but since I forgot to mention it in this episode, I wanted to tell you before we even get started that Doctor Brandie Nemchenko, which is a chiropractor that you're going to hear from in just a minute here, is so gracious, and she gave us a book of her own that she's written herself in order to give to you guys. So there's a giveaway for this week, and it is called What You Don't Expect When You're Expecting, and you'll hear me mention it in the episode. It's really fun, also informative, so I hope that you guys absolutely love it and you take the time to jump into the giveaway. And in order to do that, all you have to do is leave a podcast review for this podcast. That's the Pregnancy and Birth Made Easy podcast. So if you are on Apple Podcasts, you will scroll down to ratings and reviews, click the button that says write a review, make sure you give it the 5 stars or whatever you're feeling, and then leave an awesome review. Send an email to hello@myessentialbirth.com letting me know what your review said and the date that you left it, and I will enter you into this week's giveaway. All right, this week's reviewer of the week is A.Wens127, and she says, every mama needs this. This podcast is gold. It helped me have a natural, unmedicated birth center birth that I can look back with such fondness and gratitude. Women prepare for their weddings with so much detail and time, and we need to make preparing for birth just as, that's all caps, just as, if not more, a priority. It's a day we will always remember, and we only get it once. This podcast provides so much valuable information along with the course she offers, and empowers women to own their birth experience and arms them with knowledge about all interventions, what is necessary and what might not be, and how to adjust the sails if birth does take a different course than we, quote, planned. Do yourself a favor and prepare for the best day ever by listening to this podcast and signing up for the course. Thank you so much. And then she had some heart emojis. I feel like I probably could have used that as like an advertisement, like do yourself a favor and prepare. Come to this birth class. Join me here. That's excellent. Thank you so much for your review. Okay, I'm excited. This week, I think this is going to be a really excellent conversation. I have someone here that I'm going to talk to about chiropractic care, and more so, she's going to give us a little more details that way, kind of into what she just refers to as the villains of pregnancy. It's something I talk about, and I definitely recommend during pregnancy, that chiropractic care. And I will tell you, I have had both personal experiences with the discomforts of pregnancy and such, but also as a doula professionally working with women where chiropractic care has made a huge difference for their pregnancy and birth outcomes. I think most often, though, what happens is we have women who choose to get chiropractic care after they've discovered all of the like fun new discomforts of pregnancy. And I think what's excellent about chiropractic care, and what I didn't learn honestly until it was like a little later with my third, is that you can do these things prior and maybe not have so many of these discomforts. So overall, I think it's an incredible thing that you can add. It's used preventatively and to help you have a more comfortable and balanced pregnancy and birth overall. So I would like to now introduce Dr. Brandie Nemchenko, and I want to give you a chance, Dr. Brandie, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to listeners and just telling us a little bit about yourself and your practice.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you for that was an amazing review, by the way. That was like, it gave me chills because I totally get that. So my name is Dr. Brandie Nemchenko. I own Experience Chiropractic. We have 2 offices in Southeast Pennsylvania near Philly. And I'm the director of a program called Bloom. We're going to talk about that. So for about 16 years, it's been something that I've developed, but in the last couple of years, it's become a national program. So I'm very passionate about pregnancy, and it's the coolest thing ever. I'm very lucky. So yeah, I'm very lucky with what I do. So I watched your website. I know you feel the same. It's like a magic time you get to watch somebody have the best experience of their life. So
yeah. All right. So in preparation for today, I actually reached out to my community and I asked them, what do you want to know regarding chiropractic care? I think a lot of the women that follow me are a little more so crunchy. And if you guys are listening and you're not, it's okay. But I think they tend to like, oh, I want to know what's going on inside of my body and I want to know how to prepare for birth. And it kind of opens up the conversations about things like chiropractic care. And so there were two questions that came up a lot. And that was, number one, what does chiropractic care really do during pregnancy? And I think it was a general, like, really, what is this for? And two, when should I start going during pregnancy, or when is the perfect time to begin going, and how often during pregnancy?
Those are great questions. So what chiropractic does, I tell people that you have bones in your back that are not moving, right? You have patterns of wear and tear. You have muscles, especially all of us that are working from home now and sitting at dining room tables as your desk. And then you add like 25 pounds onto the front of you, it wears down your spine pretty good. So what chiropractic does, what a great chiropractor will do, is relax the muscles that move the bones and then make sure that your bones are moving so they don't put pressure on your nerves. And especially with pregnancy, it can help restore balance in the pelvis, which is so critical because those are the two pieces. People don't realize that when I put my hands on my hips. I'm like, that at the bottom is where the baby comes out. And they turn really pale. And I'm just like, this is how it works. But if those two pieces are cockeyed, you're going to have one of two problems. One in the back with the SI joint, which I'm sure you had that when you were pregnant. Or the fun one that no one knows about is pubic pain.
Yes. Well, they don't know about it until they know about it, right?
Until they know about it. But then they don't tell their friends about it because it's too embarrassing. Yeah. But that's how chiropractic can help. So it can relax your muscles that are tight. It can rebalance things. It can get your spine to move, especially, we're going to talk about it a little later, but when your upper back locks up because this gets too heavy, puts too much stress and it sort of blows out. Chiropractic gets things moving. It takes down your muscle spasm, and motion is life. So if a joint is moving, it's healthier. In terms of when you should go, I'm very low pressure. Whenever somebody's comfortable with going, a lot of people will come back, especially if they had a C-section the first time. They're like, I'm not doing that again. I'd love to VBAC. So why don't we get my pelvis in a good place? Or, oh my God, I had such extreme groin pain last time. I don't want to ever have that again. And I got great relief with you. Let's stop that before it even starts. So it's used for preventative measures. A lot of people seek chiropractic for Webster technique, which is if your baby's in a breech position, that's usually around 34 to 36 weeks. It's important to get in. I would say the caveat is if you're having difficulty or if you had problems prior to pregnancy, like with sciatica, it's just a good idea to like establish a relationship with a chiropractor before you really need them. I always think it's a good idea.
I completely agree with you. And yes, for those of you that are wondering in that Webster's technique, I know that I've talked about it on here before, but for a baby who is breech, which means that they are presenting with their bottom coming out first, typically, like you had mentioned, that 34 to 36 weeks is when providers are talking about an external cephalic version, which is a manual rotation of baby in the pelvis, in the uterus. Or we talk a lot about find a chiropractor who is skilled in the Webster's technique. And then, of course, there's a bunch of other things that we can do, right? The like inversions and acupressure points and frog walking. And there's some other things that you do. But like you were talking about with this balancing of the pelvis, and will you kind of explain for a moment what specifically the Webster's technique does that allows a baby to turn? And if you don't mind sharing, I'm going to pause here because I don't know if you want to answer this, and you don't have to if you want to. Okay.
I'm an open book, so.
How successful that has been for you. Because a big thing that I say to women is don't just find somebody that says they can do it. You know, ask them, like, how often do you see this successfully turn a baby for a mom? I say the same thing when they plan to get an ECV from a provider. Great, your provider does it. Great, a lot of OBs do it. How successful are they? And if they're not, like, don't be afraid to go find. Yeah. Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So Webster technique is one of the things that it took me 13 years to break into local OBs to like actually get them to listen, because I'm like, I have an 82% success rate, because it bothers me when I'm not able to, I'm not turning, it's very important. The language is very important with chiropractors, that they're not turning the baby. It's not practicing obstetrics. What it is, it's really such a cool concept. So I wish I had brought my spine home. But if you can picture my hand is like the sacrum. I hope there's not a message on there. My hand's like the sacrum. One time, my daughter texted me. But this is your sacrum, right? It's sort of like on Magic Mike, those dots on a guy's back.
Yes,
do you know what I'm talking
absolutely.
about? The little dents. Sorry. Yes, I do. So those dents are where your ilium or your hips meet into the sacrum, forming the SI joint. So what the theory of it is say my back is to you, is if, let's say this side goes backwards, it rotates because the muscles are too tight, right? If this goes backwards, I wish I could stand up. If I'm here, right? I'm very demonstrative. So if I go back like this, right? That's going to tighten the opposite round ligament. So what it does is, if I take my shirt, I didn't expect to do this today, but if you take your shirt and it's too tight, do you remember when you first got pregnant, that like twingy, like it felt like you're ovulating? Right. I went to the ER because I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying, but it was just round ligament pain. If it's too tight, the baby can't move about the building. So what a chiropractor does is to, like, say I'm back like this, put this back, right? Realign this, or make it move, or reapproximate it. And then that in itself relaxes this tightness, right? And then what they do is they do a soft contact. Nothing in a chiropractor's office should hurt, except for stripping, which is like called active release, which we use with athletes. But there's always a warning that this should not hurt. And that's for feet and shoulders and stuff like that. But it's a very gentle contact. What you're trying to do is to take the knot or the tight part in the middle to melt. So if I'm twisted like this, if you push into something, it allows it to relax, so there's more room.
I love it.
So the baby can do what it's supposed to do. So that's what Webster technique is. It's very safe. It's funny because I do 5 cases a week, and I'm only there part-time. Wow. So my husband and the other doctor got certified, and about a year ago, my husband, we've been married for 25 years. He's like, it's the coolest thing. It's like the coolest thing to do in practice, and I love a transverse lie. Which is uncomfortable for the mom, but the only time I've ever felt the baby move doing it is with the head came down like skee ball.
Oh,
it was
that's
the coolest
so neat.
thing. It just like dropped me
down.
And I was pregnant at the time, so we said that my daughter told her to get down. But so a technique for that is about 3 times a week for 2 weeks. I usually coordinate with an acupuncturist for moxibustion if the person wants. Or Spinning Babies is a great resource. Your website's a great resource, because there's so much you can do to get the pelvis to move, so that there's more room.
I say.
So it's very effective. The caveat too is that you want to find someone who's certified with that. Like, not that just knows it. Because in our office, I had a doctor one time, they're like, oh, I read about it. I was like, no, I need you to you need to understand the mechanics. Because pregnancy is such a specialized time, it's important, you're right, to find somebody that really knows.
Yeah, you don't want to get that wrong. You only have a small period. Yeah.
You really don't. Yeah, so 85% of our practice is pregnant, and that's pretty much all I do. Our practice is extremely busy. We see about 65% pregnancy, so it looks like an OB office. Cool.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I don't know if you know this about me, but Webster's technique, when I had decided I was going to have my baby at home, of course that baby decided he was going to be breached. And it was about week 35, and I went to a chiropractor that was like stop 1, and it was every other day for a couple of days. And anyways, with that and these other tools, was able to get my baby to turn, and it was just incredible. Yeah. So I scream it from the mountaintops, because it's so important. It just matters. So such a small thing.
Yeah, but I always say if the baby doesn't turn, there's always a reason.
Same.
Like some people get really upset Like some people get so upset, and that's when I feel awful because like I want to give them the birth that they
Yeah,
want. Do you know what
sure.
I'm saying? But there's usually a reason. Like either your uterus is misshaped or it has like a cord problem. It's better just to let nature take its course
Yeah.
and
I
try your
agree
best. Yeah.
100%. So I love that you back that up right here. I
Yes.
love it.
Yep.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I definitely want to give you time to talk about, you have something called the villains of pregnancy. So I want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I've dedicated my life since 2006 to this. It's called Bloom, which I've named it because, as we talked about before this segment started, it's such an honor and a gift. And that sounds like sort of like hokey, but like it's spiritual to share that with somebody and watch them change from like not having kids to having kids. Like it's such a beautiful unfolding, which is why I call my program Bloom. Um, and so it's very important for me to spread that. So I've spoken nationally. I wrote a book in 2018 called What You Don't Expect When You're Expecting, which is like a big sister vibe of like giving you every tip or trick to help yourself. Like I'm very big into helping yourself because when you can help yourself and you can do stuff for yourself, you don't feel dependent on somebody else. I think the more you and your partner or your mom or your best friend or whoever you have in your circle can help you, the better. Your
Yeah.
doula, anybody. So during COVID, I don't know if it affected you. I didn't get a chance to talk about that, but it hit me profoundly between 90 Day Fiance and gin and tonics of thinking I was going to die. And I'm like, why am I not thinking bigger? Because I don't know about you, the number one thing I hear when I talk to women who are new patients is they said, oh, I'm in excruciating pain. I've been calling my OB's office or my midwife's office. And they're like, there's nothing you can do. Like, what do you expect? You're pregnant. And I was like, why am I not changing that? Like, why am I not going after teaching, just assuming they don't know? Do you know what I'm saying? That they don't know that something exists. And what the secret sauce of my technique is I've applied sports medicine protocols, taking care of the Eagles cheerleaders, to pregnancy. And people are like, how do you talk about that? But like, if you think about it, if you're watching a football game, they can get a chiropractor or the athletic trainer, they can get somebody on the field like that, using the best sports medicine, right? Why does a woman or a person carrying a baby not deserve that?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? I don't get it. We just tell them to suck it up.
Yeah.
So that's when I had this epiphany of developing these villains of pregnancy who steal your joy. So I picked 6 of them.
And they have names, and I love it.
They all have names. My favorite is Peggy, but they're all named after family members who like did not know
hilarious.
that. Peggy was like, it made me into a growing pain. But so there's Peggy Pubis. She's my favorite. There is Linda Low back pain and her fraternal twin Sally, because usually they go together. And then there's Rebecca Rib Pain. She's the one that nobody expects. Like she's the one that could take you down. She's the Regina George of back pain. Yes. And then there's she is. She's like this insidious thing and she's the scariest. Like she will wreck the most havoc. And then there's Helen Headache and Wendy Wrist.
I was waiting
so, like,
because of like 2018, 19. I was like, where's Karen Carpal Tunnel? That was I'm like, bring her on.
Yes, Carpal Tunnel. What's it?
I mean, I know the K and the C are off, but yeah, Wendy Wrist. I saw Wendy Wrist and I was like, okay.
There she is. There she is. And it's those are the top 6 that I see like over and over and over again. So it's just like it's the ones that'll steal your joy.
Yeah.
So they're predictable. And but as I said, Peggy is my favorite to speak about publicly because I'll have like 100 women in a library with their partners.
I love it.
And I'll start talking about it. And I will clear husbands out of the room like that. And then I'm like, now we can get real. Like now we can get real about this. And they all look at, it's funny because they'll all look around and be like, you have it too?
I
like
love
they
that.
think that they're a little, like you can't be your friend and be like, dude, my groin hurt. Like you can't, it's not a conversation piece that you talk about. So yeah, but I talk about in my books what you may be doing to invite them in, because there's a lot of stuff that people don't know that they're actually doing stuff to hurt themselves. And then what they can try themselves, what they can try with a partner, and like when to call in help. Like when is it time to sort of bring in a professional, and how to find a great professional. So
yeah, I love that.
That's where I retooled my book in 2021 after this epiphany. And I added the villains. I added employment law. I had an employment lawyer help me because a lot of people don't understand their rights when they're pregnant. And I see and hear horrible things of employers and the way they treat people that have been dedicated to them for years and were steady workers and great employees. And then they get pregnant and they say stuff that's in 2021 is just insane. Yeah. Like, just absolutely, like, what good are you to me now is what somebody said 2 months ago. And I had to like literally stop and just be like, I cannot believe that it's 2021. I also added gender issues and sexual identity because that's a big, I missed the mark with that because I thought I was like very woke with my first book about not assuming you have a partner and not assuming it's a man. But there's a lot with gender identity and sexual identity. So I've added that in. When I don't know it, when it's outside my wheelhouse, I bring in other experts because I feel like they're better to speak to you guys than I know what I do well, which is to get people out of pain. But I feel so much for pregnant women. Like I love that testimonial that your person said, like, you get like only so many shots with this. It should be the best.
Totally agree. So. Yeah. And well, and I read a couple of chapters in the book in preparation for this. And for you that are listening, it's also very entertaining. Like, I'm like, oh, I am learning stuff and I'm laughing. Like, I totally am like snickering to myself, which is always my goal with anything I'm watching, right? Education and a little bit of fun. So I absolutely love the tone of the book too. It's super fun.
Yeah, keep it real.
It was real.
People don't talk about, like, pregnancy is very real. And it's like, it's not delicate flowers and running in a field of wheat. It's like, it's gritty sometimes. So let's talk about it.
Okay, so I did want to make sure, like, I love when listeners can walk away from here and be like, oh, here's a couple of like for sure things I can do right now. And for those of you that are listening, I'm going to put it in the show notes. Dr. Brandie Nemchenko, she's been excellent in creating something for you guys to be able to download. So I'll talk about that at the end here. But she's got a free PDF download that are going to give you instant relief right away. And then she's also included a chapter of her book. And so I'll have a link for that as well. But I was wondering if maybe you could talk to one or two of those pains that you think would be fairly easy to, for those that are just listening on audio, because yes, we're going to have video of this too, but there are some that are just on audio, for you to kind of explain and walk through, like, this is what it's going to feel like. Here's something you can do right now to kind of relieve a little bit of that.
Okay, so the one that Regina, let's talk about Regina George of Rebecca Road pain. Just even knowing that that's so common. If you think about your first symptom, I don't know if your first symptom when you got pregnant, besides my husband smelling horrible instantly, was and French fries and coffee, which are my two favorite things in life, smell horrible. But the next symptom was like your chest gets that tingly and heavy and it gets more dense. And so like when this gets heavier, that pulls on your neck, right? And as the baby grows, right in here, a lot of women will get that sharp. In my book, there's like a lightning bolt coming out of the side, which is very scary. It's very scary sometimes to the provider where they're just like, you have a gallbladder problem or you have this. As your spine expands and you go forward because everything's pulling you forward, it can pinch the nerve and send around the bottom of your nerves. There's a nerve called the intercostal nerve. So one of the first things you can do is to stop using heat. I'm sorry about my humor, but I always say with heat, I love heat. Heat is like saying something about your husband's mom. It feels awesome in the moment, but then you pay later because like
that is, I'm quoting that one on the Instagram for this week's episode.
Yeah, it really does. Like, it feels, I hate being cold. Like right now I'm freezing. So like I hate being cold, but if you think about it, if something's already mad, say your husband's already mad, and you throw something extra right on top of it, it makes it more mad. It brings more blood in. It makes it more swollen. It's a good analogy. So one good trick to use is to put some ice on here. Try to ice it. In my book, I talk about, it's very important with rib pain though to seek, advice from your OB or your midwife or your doula, any licensed birth professional to make sure, because this could be something else, right? And we all know that could be something else. But if they're like, it's just normal, go home and then get yourself any kind of cream. Just make sure it's safe for use. We use Sombra. I don't get a kickback from that, but a Sombra is, it's like Biofreeze, but it's only made out of hot pepper and orange peel, and it feels like mayonnaise. Don't get in your eyes.
Yeah.
But you just find the area that hurts, right? And then you can do a circular motion where it's tight. Same thing up here. I always find with your partner, it's like 1 minute and they're like done, they're exhausted. But like if you could do it yourself, if you just like wax on, Cobra Kai is out right now. So the wax on, wax off
Nice.
is back. So just to stir up this area to get, it's like a traffic jam. A knot in your back, anywhere in your back is like a traffic jam. And so what happens is your body comes in to fix it. So then you get these giant lumps in your back because your body tried to fix something and brought in this inflammatory response, which is why if you use heat, it brings more, it's like a concert for Maroon 5 and you're like all in there and you're trying to get out and everybody's just trying to leave at the same time. So if you put some ice, it'll dissipate some of that swelling and it won't be so expansive. So do a little bit of muscle work. You can do a little bit of just massaging. You can feel it. It feels like somebody chewed up gum and stuck it under your skin. Do it for about 2 minutes and then ice. Anywhere it's sore, especially this one, you'll find a big knot. You'll feel it. And it like hurts so good. Like nothing should be excruciating or whatever. If your low back hurts, same thing. Start massaging back here. Just stir things up and then ice. Just, 2 to 5 minutes of ice. In terms of pubic pain with Peggy, there's a lot you can do. So if you have a kickball, it's usually second pregnancy that bites you. She usually shows up around 5 weeks and you're like, 5 months, and you're like, what the heck is this? This didn't happen until the end. The only time you'll see pubic pain on a first pregnancy is if somebody was like a high level athlete or a horseback rider, or they were using that pelvic floor. And if you guys, do your listeners know about the pelvic floor?
I hope so.
A lot of people
but go for it. Yeah.
I hope so too, because it'll bite you. Whenever I give a talk, you have basically two things in your body, which this is your pelvic floor. There's one up here that holds up your guts here, but there's a pelvic floor, and it's basically like a hammock. So whenever I give a talk, it looks like a trampoline. You guys all have trampolines at home? So your first pregnancy is like a nice, tight, brand new trampoline. And then the second pregnancy is like if you put snow on the trampoline. So it's a little lower, your maternity clothes fit sooner, and like you feel the baby sooner. So there's you're lower lying. So that puts more pressure on your groin. So groin, from a palpation standpoint, from a touching standpoint, for a chiropractor, feels almost exactly like a shin splint. So something's under stress. So you've got the front going this way, and then the weight's going that way. And then if your hips are out of alignment, it's like an uneven thing. And again, like I talked about, there's the two pieces they join in the back, which is the SI joint, right? But I'll have to do a spine next time with you. In the front, it's like a little pubis. There's actually like a little disc right where you're sort of like your panty line is. We're getting low right now. But what happens is there's this exuberant reaction here. So locally, they call me the crotch fixer. I bring a chill to Lady Town. And so there's stuff you can do by applying either a popsicle, like a popsicle on its side, a single popsicle, especially if you've been walking the mall or you've been walking a lot. Try a little bit of ice. It's the perfect size just to lay. Your husband's going to think you're nuts while you're putting a popsicle in your groin. But it'll actually cool things down and it'll take some of the spasm out. So that's a great thing. In terms of pregnancy belts, I always advocate if you have a friend, borrow theirs because it's hit or miss whether they work or did it work for
I
you?
didn't use one, but I have heard of other women using them successfully.
They're very hit or miss. So they either work fabulously or they don't work at all. So I always say borrow your friends. But that would be the biggest things the stuff that would like really like bring you to tears. So the other stuff you kind of expect, like the back pain, the sciatica pain, and stuff like that. But those are the two people don't know about.
All right, I do have one last question for you, and that is, where can these pregnant moms find a really good chiropractor? What does that look like when you are looking for someone that you trust during pregnancy?
Yeah, so a great resource is moms groups because they'll tell you who's good or not. It's very important to vet them. It's when you call, it's like you said, it's not how many pregnant patients do you have? The other thing that's a good idea is to see if the chiropractor will actually get on the phone with you, because that's trust. And I think as chiropractors, what I'm trying to teach is being pregnant is such a special time that there's a lot of anxiety going to a chiropractor if you've never been. because it's not just you, it's your pain is bringing you in where you could affect your baby. So if they don't take that seriously to get on the phone with you and answer some questions and like be open about the process, that is a good indicator of if you find a good one. In terms of when you come into the office, it's very important to get that they get consent at every point. I always say when I come into a treatment room, I talk so fast because I'm from the East Coast. But I'm going to make sure that I explain every single thing I do with you and get your consent. And if there's anything that I do that you don't like, I used to be a paramedic. I can't do that here. I can totally do that here. It's totally your choice. So some women will say, I don't want to lay on the pillows. Great. We'll whatever you feel comfortable. You should never have to do something that is uncomfortable. So if you're in an office and somebody makes you uncomfortable, articulate your needs. And if they don't listen to them, they're not respecting your boundaries. It's time to go. So I have a printable as well of how to handle that. But I hope you found a good one. But I think vetting through your mom friend, asking your OB knows, or your midwife or your doula, you guys have a great extensive network of who's the and then those are the ways that I vet, not only in the office, but
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for your time. I really hope that those that are listening have not only gotten a ton of information, but have enjoyed the conversation. I know that I've enjoyed speaking with you. And I want to give you an opportunity as well. I want listeners to have all the information to know where to find you, where to find your book, and everything she talks about will be listed in the show notes for this episode. So you'll head to myessentialbirth.com/podcast, find this episode, and underneath all of that in the show notes, there will be links for everything. But go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so my book is on Amazon. I have another book coming out for partners,
because I love it.
Partners need help as well. So that it's just sort of speaking to them. So that's coming out very soon. So those are on Amazon. I have a website, whatyoudon'texpect.com. And for you guys, if you ever like are lost, like that's my heart. Like if you feel like you're alone in this, I will find you somebody to help you.
Love it.
Because like you shouldn't go through this by yourself. So seriously, I'll walk you through it. So if you need help, I'm here for you. I'll send you a chapter to my book if you need it, because we're all in this sort of together. So
that's excellent. Thank you. Yeah. And isn't the title of the book What You Don't Expect When You're Expecting? I love it.
It's what you don't expect. Nobody talks about this stuff. We have to talk about this more.
Yes, I totally agree. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And this has been just so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. If you want to have me back, I'll bring a spine to show people, because it's very cool. It's very cool what happens to your body.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, thank you so much.
Was there anything else you wanted to cover before we jump off? I was just looking at time and everything and wanted to make sure that I didn't create an hour-long episode, but okay.
No. Is there anything else that you need from
No,
me,
I think that was great. I've been in touch with your staff, which, by the way, I'm like, maybe I just need to talk to her about how to hire good staff, good grief, because they are excellent.
Oh, I have amazing.
They are excellent.
Yeah. It's from Strategic Coach. I belong to Strategic Coach, which is like, it just has helped me become a better boss. Do you know what I'm saying? And more organized and more like bigger reach.
I am learning. I am in the baby steps of trying to run a company as a boss. It is hard.
You do a great job. I like how you vetted me. Like seriously, because like I want to talk about that in terms of finding a good chiropractor. What's a good that's the only thing that I don't know if you want to talk about. If you have
let's
5
do
minutes
that.
to talk about, if that was
sure.
Because I think I don't want people to get what to look for. It's very generic advice, but at the same time, I think I could help them figure out, like you were saying, of who's good and who's bad.
And I want to make sure to add these at the end. You talked about your website and some different places to find you. If you guys are interested in following her on Instagram, it is WYD Expect. So what you didn't expect, but WYD Expect. And then on Facebook, it's Bloom at Experience Chiropractic. So again, thank you so much for your time today. I know that the listeners are going to love it, and I really, really appreciated it.
Thank you, Stephanie. It was awesome.
Okay. That's it for this week, but make sure you subscribe to the podcast so that you get notifications first as I drop a new episode every week. And don't forget to head over to myessentialbirth.com for all of the free downloads mentioned here and to join the birth course and community serving pregnant moms just like you. If you enjoyed this and other episodes, I would love it if you would take a few minutes to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. I read every single one and include one at the beginning of each episode. See you next week.